Hey, David Brewster here, new episode of Chordplay. This is the Chords of Steve Hillage, and I've had some requests to feature this legendary but commonly overlooked progressive rock and space rock pioneer. Definitely a legendary guitarist. Steve's been on the scene since around 1967. Solo artist, a former member of the band Gong, former member of the band Khan, Uriel. He's worked with a project called System 7 for a number of years. Definitely a very prolific and misunderstood, guitarist. Very exciting. And inspiring too. Definitely a lot of use of effects, early on, delay and phasers and stuff, late 60s, early 70s and everything. 9 studio albums, 10 live albums, 3 compilations, not to mention 3 albums with Gong. Or is it 4 albums with Gong? I think there's actually 4. He does appear on the Flying Teapot album, but just briefly. So I think it is 4 Gong albums, 1 Khan album, trying to remember 14 albums with System 7, his kind of electronic group. Definitely Steve's a very interesting guitarist, unusual, and even though he's not really that well known, especially in the United States, he's definitely much better known in England. But there's just something really interesting, like a different approach, a different style, and we're going to break that down this episode, so here we go. And for those that are new to Steve's music, here's an image with some of the artists and groups that he's played with over the years. Keep in mind, his career goes all the way back to 1967, and he has consistently kind of, reworked and reevaluated his music and kind of moved in different directions constantly. He was doing prog, and then he got into funk, and then he started doing almost prog pop kind of stuff. Eventually started doing electronic stuff. So definitely, he's kind of reworked and reshaped his music and career. But here's some of the people he's worked with in his career. And I mentioned this during the intro, but some of the early use of effects, late 60s, early 70s, you got to think he definitely was kind of really pushing the envelope and the sound of the guitar forward. And, I tried to look it up and tried to find exactly what he was using, especially around the 70s. And I did locate a few, so here's some of what Steve Hillage was using back in the day. The music and chord-based examples in this episode mainly came from the album Green from 1978. It's right there on the wall. That's a classic space rock, progressive rock album. Definitely, that's a great one right there. We're also going to look at one track or one song from the band Khan from their album Space Shanty, which was just a one-off, album project. And we're also going to hit one song from Gong, too. And I am going to make a Gong Chordplay episode, so don't worry, Gong fans. There's more Gong coming. We can talk about Holdsworth and a whole bunch of people when we hit Gong. But definitely, Hillage was, a very notable guitarist and worked with that band all the way up until Holdsworth, stepped in. But anyway, here's an image kind of showing the album covers with the 3 albums that I pulled music from. And buckle up. Here we go. Alright, with the opening, that's the song See Nature from the album Green, the opening track. And there's actually 2 guitars there, and I was trying to replicate that with one guitar, which is kind of hard to do. It was close. It didn't sound quite right, because you have one guitar doing this. Kind of, you know, gainy and dipping the bar, letting that, you know, A power chord ring. Sometimes it just sounds like the open A. Like that. And then you hear another guitar come in, and Steve's using this really interesting effect. To my ears, it sounds like a phaser and an envelope filter together. It has this real blow blow kind of sound. And he does... So he's just really kind of walking in and then ends on that A. So after that little walk up, then you've got this kind of funky single note riff, and you really hear that effect on this part. So think like A minor pentatonic, kinda. And then start it again right there. And then right there, do that quick D to C. And then you're gonna go back to the other guitar part. Like that. The second time, he just does like this little funky thing between that A and G. And then he starts doing that riff again. And then do that same move into that A power chord. And this time he does like kind of a lazier, kind of a slower version. And then do that riff again. And then right there, he basically starts spelling out this A major 13, like this. Like that. So you're basically spelling out A major 7 right there. Grab that B right there, D sharp, F sharp, and then you're going to grab that A and slide it off. And then after you do that, you're going to end up with this B flat major 7 right here. You're going to let that ring for a while and sustain. Then you hear these kind of scratchy percussive hits. And you're going to move that B flat major 7, just move it down to a G major 7 and do the same thing right there. Percussive scratches. And then right there an A flat major 7. And let that ring and sustain and you're floating out in space. And then a G flat major 7 right there and do the scratches. I forgot about that part. But then a G flat major 7, and let that ring, then eventually ends up on D, you know, right after that. But an interesting song, and like I said, I kind of broke that down gradually or slowly because there were two guitars kind of working and playing together, and interesting, really interesting. And that song, you know, is the opening track from that album, and it really does set the mood for the entire Green album, a classic. Next up's the song Palm Trees. This is also from the album Green, arguably the most popular or famous song from that album, even though it wasn't technically a hit, but it is a recognizable song for most prog rock fans. And Palm Trees is something like this. So it's G5 like that, kind of a glorified G5 to a G major 7, just grab that F sharp back there, like that, and then A minor 7 right there twice, B minor 7 right there once, or I guess it's actually twice, and then hop up to this E minor 7 and strum it, and then you're going to pick an arpeggiate all the way through it from the A to the high E, like that. So that first part, and then just loop loop that over and over right there. Time right here, you're going to basically do this G minor 9 like that. Think of a G minor 7 like this, but then add that A up on the high E string right there, which is the 9th of G, so a G minor 9, and then just turn that into a G minor 7 like that. Take your pinky off, and then do the exact same thing in B flat, so a B flat minor 9 to B flat minor 7. Tasty chord progression. That's a cool song too. Next up's the opening of the song Leylines To Glassdom. This is from the album Green, and this actually features this extended arpeggio with volume swells, which is really cool, like this. You know, something like that. And we're basically playing with this, it's like a B minor 13. And then Steve's playing it like that. And you can also hear volume swells on every single note. Now you could do like a hammer on and then open up your volume control almost like Van Halen's Cathedral. Like that. But I was having better luck picking it and then swelling, you know, with my pinky like that. It's very loud. You can hear every note, you know, like when you hear the recording or whatever, you can hear every single note. And it seems like when you do the hammer-on approach, it doesn't really seem as loud or projected like that. Now, right there, it sits on that B minor 13 and goes up and down, you know, several times. And then eventually it moves to an A flat minor 13 like that. So the same thing we did in B, just move down. Like that. I'm a sucker for things like that. Anytime a guitar sounds like something other than a guitar, it totally captures my attention. It's like, yeah, what's that? You know, it sounds like a cello, or it sounds like a violin, or a harmonica, or a banjo, or a sitar, you know, or whatever. Alright, next up's the song Mixed Up Man on the Mountain. This is from the band Con, from their album Space Shanty, and there's only one Con album. And Space Shanty is one hell of a space rock, progressive rock epic. That's a great album. And this is really interesting, something like this. Basically real busy, you know, and you could also finger pick through that if you wanted to too. It's a good picking workout for sure. So that's going to be like a B sus4 right there. And just think of like a B, and then you're playing the open B and open high E, like a B5 with two open strings there. And then the pattern right there, you're doing this kind of like backward kind of movement. Start with the root note, and then you're going to pick up like the next three strings after that. And then you start going backward. See that? Like this. And then go to the high E, go backward three strings. And then backward on the B string, three strings. And then the high E again. And then the B again. So there is a pattern there, it's just kind of unusual. sus4. Now what you want to do for the next chord is take the root note off, open up that A string, and then grab this F sharp on the high E right there. And that's going to be an implied, what, A6 sus2 right there. So I like that progression, real moody and kind of, you know, atmospheric. B sus2 to an A6, or I'm sorry, a B sus4 to an A6 sus2, like that. You know, I'm a sucker for those clean kind of arpeggiated parts like that. Really cool. Next up's the song Unidentified Flying Being from the album Green. This definitely reveals some of Steve's interest in funk, like this. Something like that. A lot of ninth chord action going on here. So think of, like G9, but you're sliding the top part right there up a whole step and back. And then G9. And then right there, F9 to F sharp 9, back to G9 right there. Last time right there, you're going to hear this kind of 70s inversion, that F right there, like F over A to C to D right there, right? And then after that, you hear it shift to F sharp right there, like F sharp 9, and he starts variating like kind of hear that rhythm change at the end, like the slide. Kind of do like 2 hits there, and then do the slide again with the top part, and then 1 hit, and then 2 hits. So it's like 2 hits and then 3. Really interesting song, and check out that super crazy Mutron kind of funky bass in that song too. Really interesting. Okay, next up's the band Gong with the song Oily Way from the album Angel's Egg. Definitely a very interesting and unusual song. It's got this avant-garde, like Primus kind of thing going, but really cool. Something like this. Real cheeky and kind of bizarre song, but I like it. And it starts with this E5 kind of spaced out twice, and you hear that boom 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 boom. I think it's actually the bass doing that, but whatever. 2 E5s, then a C sharp minor right there, and let it ring. And then right there, that's like a G sharp minor 11 implied, like that. Definitely a big handful right there. So there's your cycle of chords for the intro: 2 E5, C sharp minor, and then a G sharp minor 11. And then right there. Then after that giant G sharp minor 11, you're going to start doing all these flat 5 chords. So it's like C sharp, and then E flat 5, and then G flat 5, and then A sharp flat 5, like that. Reminds me of Primus or somebody right there. And then you start strumming flat 5 chords, the C sharp flat 5, E flat 5, and then 2 G flat 5s and 2 A sharp flat 5s with this weird rhythm. Back to E5, and it's like it kind of resets, and then it starts the verse again and stuff. But a very unusual song. Check that out. I mean, it is weird, but I like weird, and that's a really good weird song. Okay, last but not least, I really couldn't do a Steve Hillage lesson and not include this. This is the Glorious Om Riff from the album Green. This is very prog and very cool, like this. something like that. And it just keeps going, of course, rocking out. And the first time I heard this, it just caught my attention because it has a very exotic flavor and sound. It's based around F-sharp Phrygian dominant. So we've definitely talked about Phrygian dominant before, a lot here on the channel. It's a mode from harmonic minor. But it's really interesting, like in the beginning, it's kind of a lot of effects and kind of quieter. Like that. Really interesting. So you're going to slide that C sharp down to that A sharp, and then catch that G to F sharp there. Then you're going to basically do this G to F sharp 9 times in a row. So you have to count, and that makes this tricky. It's also in an odd time signature too. But you've got, and you're going to do, like I said, 9 times right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The 9th time, you're going to hop up here to that F sharp, and you're going to do that. And when you do that, then you're going to go right back to that G and F sharp and do it 9 times again. When that runs its course, it's going to move an octave lower down here. The exact same riff, just moved right there. Right? Eventually that's going to run its course. It's going to move to A right there eventually, like it definitely reminds me of modern prog, like Porcupine Tree and a bunch of stuff like that. Very proggy, odd time, moody, Phrygian dominant. That song has a lot going for it, and a great title too, the Glorious Om Riff. Alright, that's going to wrap this episode of Chordplay with this look at the chords of Steve Hillage. Definitely a legendary guitarist, commonly overlooked and underappreciated. I mean, it takes nerds like me to really pay tribute and remember people like this. I mean, Steve Hillage is essential, even though he's not really a household name, especially in America. Now in England, he definitely has more respect and notoriety, but very interesting guitarist. A forward-thinking, envelope-pushing, effects-using, outside-the-box player. And in my opinion, we need more guitarists like this. Players that aren't afraid of taking chances, trying something different or new or unusual or just downright strange. And that's a big part of Steve Hillage, especially his Gong, era. Gong was whacked out. But I love whacked out, and I love, different, unusual things, and Gong excelled in that. So I am going to make a Gong chord play an episode, in the near future. But anyway, definitely check out some Steve Hillage, dive into these songs, dive into Green, check out that Con album, and stay tuned for more. Please subscribe to Leylines Lessons, and I'll be back before you know it with more content and material. Thank you.